Coming up on today's show, it's not going to be all roses, and we're going to talk about players that may not be perfect fits under Raheem Morris. We did a similar type video on the channel a few weeks ago. This is the thumbnail for it. We'll put it on screen for you. If you want to go watch that, these are guys I think that will thrive under Raheem Morris. But we do have to acknowledge that when a new head coach comes into town, he likes to bring his own playbook, his own way of doing things, and that sometimes leads to other players from the last regime maybe not being the best fit in the new regime, okay? I went back and I looked at the last 4 head coaching changes the Falcons have underwent, and I counted the amount of returning starters after 1 year of the new head coach. So after 1 year of Arthur Smith, the Falcons brought back 7 starters compared to his first year when he inherited a Dan Quinn predominant roster. In 2016, when Dan Quinn took over, he brought back 13 starters after 1 season. Before that, with Mike Smith and with Mora, you brought back 15 of the 22. So you're kind of noticing a trend here as we get further along in the timeline. Coaches like to dramatically alter the roster compared to how it was handed off to them from the previous regime. So I'm not going through guys that could be gone after 1 year, but it does go to show that coaches, they bring their own playbook, and that means some players might be phased out as a result. So this may not be the best term to summarize these guys, but just to keep it short and sweet, we'll call them not Morris guys. And my first one is Kaleb McGary. Kaleb McGary is definitely a hot topic for Falcons fans when the season rolls around because he can be up and down. But I want to share some old and some very new information with you guys as to why maybe McGary won't be a perfect fit under Raheem Morris. One, we've seen this data and graphic a bunch, and it is the 11 personnel usage. That is 1 running back, 1 tight end, and that means 3 wide receivers from 2023. The Rams led the NFL in it first. That's where Raheem Morris is coming from, and the offensive coordinator. The Vikings were 13th in 11 personnel. That's where Kirk Cousins is coming from. And the Falcons were 31st in the NFL. Now, why does 11 personnel have any impact on Kaleb McGary? He's a right tackle. What does he care? Because if you have a lot of 11 personnel usage, that means 3 wide receivers. That means a lot of passing the football, okay? Which the Vikings last year were 4th. The Rams were 14th. The Falcons were 25th. Are you starting to notice what I'm getting towards? Expect a lot of passes in 2025 or 2024. And that is something that Kaleb McGary is maybe not the best suited for. And he hasn't been asked to do that a whole lot. Look at the Falcons' pass attempts the last 5 seasons in which Kaleb McGary has been on the team for. His first year with Matt Ryan still there, they were first in pass attempts with 684. Next year, 4th. And now you're noticing the Arthur Smith influence, 19th, 31st, and 25th. Now let's compare that to Kaleb McGary's Pro Football Focus grades. Last year, believe it or not, he was one of the best tackles in football. He ranked 20th out of 81 qualifying tackles. His pass blocking grade, 69.5. Nice, but all jokes aside, not as nice as his run blocking grade, which was 76.5. So Kaleb McGary was a much better run blocker than pass blocker. In fact, we can actually compare his pass blocking grades to his run blocking grades throughout his NFL career. And you're going to see that Kaleb McGary has always been a run blocker first, pass blocker second. And that's true for a lot of right tackles. That's not a unique thing to Kaleb McGary. But if you're going to pass the football as much as I expect Atlanta to do with the influence of Kirk Cousins and the LA Rams coaching staff coming over, McGary may not thrive. I mean, look at the run versus pass blocking grades from PFF throughout his entire NFL career. He's not just a better run blocker. He dominates in the run, and he is passable against the pass. And that's where concern comes in that you're going to pass the ball a lot, and your right tackle is not very good at pass protection, he may not be a very good fit. Now, to play devil's advocate with myself here, it may not be, and it won't be, an apples-to-apples switch of what the Rams and the Vikings did and now in Atlanta. The Rams and the Vikings, they did not have very good running backs the last few seasons, which led them to pass the football a lot. Up until the Rams had the just complete breakout from Kyren Williams, they were the worst run team in football, only ahead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the most part. And the Vikings, the end of the Dalvin Cook era was not good, and the beginning in the very short-lived Alexander Madison era was not good. So both of those teams were forced to pass the ball a lot because they were so inefficient at the run. Atlanta's got Bijan Robinson. So my guess is Zach Robinson will balance the pass and run a lot more than the Rams and Vikings have done lately because he has Bijan Robinson to work with now. But still, I think we're going to see a much bigger emphasis placed on passing the ball this year compared to the last few seasons under Arthur Smith. Second player that may not be a Raheem Morris guy. I don't like that title, but I just can't think of a better concise way of describing what I'm trying to illustrate here. It's cornerback AJ Terrell, and this one may surprise you, but let me share some numbers with you guys here. So what I'm putting on screen now is the defensive coverage usage by the LA Rams last year compared to the National Football League. Now, the small yellow bars, that is the league average for those different types of coverages. The bigger blue bars is how often the Rams used that coverage. And you can see that the Rams were above league average in cover 3, cover 5, cover 4, cover 5. That is a heavy zone defense. Compared to cover 2, cover 1, man, on the left side of the screen, they were a little bit below or above league average, but for the most part, below league average, okay? Now compare that to the Atlanta Falcons defense last year. Remember, the little black bar is the league average, and the big red bar is what the Falcons did. The Falcons were way above league average in cover 1, which is just one high safety, and it's man-to-man across the board. Compared to cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 5, where you are sitting in a zone defense, Atlanta was below league average in a lot of these spots. So what does that tell me? Well, if they're going to have the Rams defense with Jimmy Lake and Raheem Morris come over, we're going to see a lot of zone defense. AJ Terrell is not the greatest zone defender. One, if you're going to play a zone defense, you need corners that can tackle well, right? The name of the game in a zone defense is to keep the ball in front of you and trust your playmakers to A, get to the quarterback, or B, have your corners make tackles and limit the damage and not give up the big play. AJ Terrell is much better in man-to-man, right? He's got the size, he's got the speed for it. He's never been a very good zone cover. Now, he's still a really good corner, so he's not going to be a fish out of water when it comes to playing zone defense to man, but ask him what he prefers and ask most cornerbacks what they prefer. They want to go mano-a-mano. And I don't know if AJ Terrell will necessarily thrive in a zone coverage because that just doesn't really lean into his skill set. Then you tack on the fact that he's going into the last year of his contract and the Falcons have yet to extend him. Maybe the writing is on the wall that Atlanta likes AJ Terrell, but Raheem Morris doesn't feel like he's a perfect fit for his defense. So he's not going to pay a guy that's not great at this job, right? You don't hire a plumber to do the work of an electrician. And while that may not be the best Colin Cowherd analogy, you can kind of see what I'm getting at as maybe the Falcons feel like there are other players who are better suited for how Raheem Morris wants to run his defense. Now let me toss this question your way. Is AJ Terrell a top 10 cornerback in the league? Give me a yes or give me a no. I think he's right there between like 8 to 12. And on a good day, he's closer to 8. On a bad day, he's closer to 12. But let me know what you think down below in the comment section. And while you're giving me your comment, I do want to tell everyone watching about our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. That is daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks is super simple, and one of my favorite things about Prize Picks is all you've got to do is pick 2 to 6 players and then choose more or less on their projected stats. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. As we are filming today's show during our live episode Thursday afternoon, so you can either laugh at my stat projections and my selections, or you'll see I went 3 for 3. But I'm rolling with the less on Kyrie Irving tonight as I film this against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Take the more on Anthony Edwards' points, and then I'll take the less on Aaron Judge at 1.5 total bases. So if you like my selections, download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Shout out to Prize Picks. There's always action on Prize Picks, and this is the perfect time to try out something new as sports start to wind down a little bit. Now, my third non-Raheem Morris guy, I'll go with linebacker Nate Landman. I've been like the president of the Nate Landman fan club, I feel like, the last few months, but even I can acknowledge that the winds coming out of Flowery Branch are pointing towards Troy Anderson reclaiming his starting linebacker position next to Caden Ellis. Now, Anderson ended last year early in the season because of an injury he sustained in Week 2 in Detroit, and Landman was awesome filling in for him. But the issue is, similar to AJ Terrell, it's not about Nate Landman or any of these guys being bad at their jobs. It's just maybe not being a perfect fit for how this coaching staff likes to use their personnel and their play calling. So I looked at the Rams' inside linebacker snaps the last 2 seasons with Raheem Morris as the defensive coordinator. Last year, Ernest Jones and Christian Roseboom, 82%, 48%. And the third guy, Troy Reeder, only played 16% of the snaps. So if Nate Landman is going to be the third inside linebacker, I don't think we're going to see a lot of 3 inside linebacker packages, which isn't too abnormal for a 3-4 defense. But look at the year before that, when they had Bobby Wagner, who was so dominant for them. He played nearly every single snap defensively. Ernest Jones playing only 66%, and then Terrell Lewis playing 30%. So even if Nate Landman has a really good offseason workout program and training camp, if the 2024 Falcons defense looks anything like the last 2 Rams defenses, we're not going to see a very big role for Nate Landman, even if he's super talented, and which he is because he had 110 tackles last year, 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. There just may not be a spot on the field for him because I got to think about what Jimmy Lake wants to do. That's the new defensive coordinator. What is his background? DBs. He was a DB's coach. He played DB. And I got to envision his first defense that he gets to has, complete say over as the defensive coordinator will probably feature a lot of nickel defense. And that means not a lot of linebackers, which means Nate Landman may be on the outside looking in. Not saying he's going to get cut or anything drastic like that. Just may not have a huge role carved out for him. Now, before we get to the rest of the show, name a random Falcons player. I feel like Nate Landman has the making of being an all-time random Falcons player. So drop a random one. I don't want to see a single Matt Ryan. I don't want to see a single Julio Jones in the comment section. Needs to be random, okay? I'm talking like Tevin Coleman random. So give me a random Falcons player down below in the comment section. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Falcons Today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone who takes time out of their day to watch our content. If you're still watching, make sure to like the video. It really does help grow the channel. And we will sign off and see you all later.